Okay, let's dive into this. For decades, we've all had this dream, right? It's been fed to us by science fiction, by cartoons, this idea of a future where robots handle all the boring stuff. A future where we can just kick back while some friendly machine takes care of all the chores. Well, it looks like that future is finally actually knocking on our door. But, as you're about to see, the reality is a little more complicated and a lot more interesting than the cartoons ever showed us.
And I bet for a lot of you, this is where it all started. Rosie, the robot from the Jetsons. She wasn't just some appliance, she was basically part of the family. She did the cleaning, the cooking, she played with the kids. She was the absolute dream. A tireless, good-natured helper that freed up the whole family to live their cool, futuristic lives. And that really simple idea, that if only it were real thought, has been driving engineers and dreamers for generations.
And now, meet Neo. This is from a startup called 1X, and they're positioning it as the modern-day Rosie. It's being billed as the first large-scale commercial humanoid robot that's designed specifically for your home. And get this isn't some far-off concept car. You can actually pre-order one right now. The dream is officially for sale.
And the promise they're making is, it's incredibly seductive. Just picture coming home to a perfectly tidy house. The laundry's folded, the dishwasher is empty, your plants are watered. If guests show up, Neo can open the door. It can even operate your other appliances. This is the vision they're selling, a life where all those tedious, time-consuming household chores they just disappear.
So how much does this future cost? Well, if you're an early adopter, it's a one-time payment of $20,000. Or you can wait for the standard rollout, which is slated for 2026, and get one for a subscription of about $500 a month. All of a sudden, this doesn't feel like a sci-fi fantasy anymore, does it? It's got a price tag and a delivery date. What's really interesting about Neo is its whole design philosophy. See, unlike those cold, metal, kind of scary industrial robots we're used to, Neo is designed to be soft and safe. The company calls it biomimetic, which is a fancy way of saying it mimics the human body. It uses a tendon drive system, so its movements are fluid, not all jerky. It's also super lightweight, only 66 pounds, so it won't cause serious damage if it bumps into something. And its whole body is covered in this soft polymer mesh. This isn't a machine you're supposed to be afraid of. It's one you're meant to feel totally comfortable with in your home.
The marketing videos for this thing are incredible. You see Neo moving with this grace and competence that looks like it's straight out of a movie. But it almost looks a little too perfect, doesn't it? And that perfection, that brings us to the crucial element hiding just behind the curtain.
So here's the big question, the one that really matters. Can it actually do all of this stuff on its own? Is the AI really that advanced? And the simple answer is no, not yet. The robot you're seeing in those slick promotional videos isn't operating entirely on its own brain. In fact, when the Wall Street Journal did an exclusive test, the reality was, a lot clunkier. It took Neo over a minute just to grab a bottle of water from the fridge, 5 whole minutes to load just a few dishes into the dishwasher, and 2 minutes to fold a single sweater. The movements were slow, sometimes a little irregular. This is where that polished dream meets the messy reality of today's tech.
So how does it actually work? Well, it's through a process called teleoperation. Let's say Neo gets stuck. Maybe it doesn't know how to open your specific model of washing machine. A human, called an expert operator, gets a notification. That operator, who's sitting in an office somewhere, puts on a VR headset and literally sees through Neo's eyes. They control Neo's arms and hands to finish the task. And here's the most important part. Neo's AI, which is named Redwood, is watching the whole time, learning and using that data so it can figure out how to do the task on its own next time.
Now, this learning method is super clever, but it immediately raises a giant, flashing red flag. If a human has to step in and see through the robot's eyes to teach it, what on earth does that mean for your privacy? Really think about that for a second. A remote operator, a total stranger who's an employee of this company, could be looking at your kitchen, your living room, maybe even your bedroom. They could be seeing the mess on your floor, your personal belongings. They could literally be sorting through your dirty laundry. Now, the company says they have safeguards like blurring faces, but the core issue is still there. There's a human in the machine, in your home.
And this is where things get psychologically fascinating. A study in the journal Expert Systems talks about this concept called social presence. It's basically that feeling of being with someone, even if it's through technology. So, a simple text chat has low social presence, but a humanoid robot that can gesture and look at you and speak, that creates a very high sense of social presence.
And check out this data.
because it shows how differently we act. The research found something pretty shocking. People were actually more willing to share highly sensitive data, we're talking biometric and payment info, with the human-like robot. It seems that high social presence, that feeling of being with someone, it just lowers our guard. What's even crazier is that our own personalities, like if you're extroverted or agreeable, make us even more likely to overshare, but only with the robot, not a tablet.
And this whole phenomenon has a name. It's called the privacy paradox. It's this documented gap between what we say we care about with our privacy and what we actually do. We all say we're concerned, but when we're faced with a friendly, human-like robot that's offering convenience, we are surprisingly willing to just hand over our most sensitive information.
Okay, so let's zoom out for a second, because this isn't just about one company or one cool robot. The race to build the perfect robot butler is part of a much, much bigger picture, with absolutely massive economic and geopolitical stakes.
So according to projections from Morgan Stanley, the market for humanoid robots could reach an astonishing $5 trillion by 2050. Now, to put that in perspective, that is more than double the size of the entire global car industry today. Just let that sink in.
And the number of robots is just as staggering. That same report projects there will be 1 billion humanoid robots in the world by the middle of the century. Now, the vast majority, over 90%, are expected to be in factories and warehouses. But that still leaves tens of millions of them right inside our homes. And this chart reveals that this is also a geopolitical race. While about 15 million US households might have a robot, China is projected to have over 300 million robots by 2050. And this is no accident. The Chinese government is pouring huge amounts of support into what it calls embodied AI. The country that dominates this market won't just control a new technology, they'll control the future of the entire labor economy.
So with all the clumsiness, the privacy issues, and the high cost, you might be thinking, is this just a novelty for the rich? Or are we witnessing something way more profound? Maybe we're not just watching a new product launch. Maybe, just maybe, we're living through an Edison moment.
Back in 1880, Thomas Edison made this incredibly bold claim. At the time, electricity was a dangerous, expensive, weird novelty. Most people couldn't even imagine a world without candles and gas lamps. His prediction must have sounded completely absurd. Well, today's robots, slow, expensive, and semi-autonomous, they might just be our generation's version of the candle.
See, just as Edison was building the infrastructure for electricity, the power grid, companies today are building the infrastructure for physical embodied intelligence. It's a network that learns from every single interaction in every single home, constantly getting smarter. Right now, we are struggling to imagine a home without chores, just like people 150 years ago struggled to imagine a home without candles. Ultimately, this isn't just about whether Neo will fold our laundry perfectly in 2026. It's about what happens when this intelligence infrastructure is finally fully built. When these robots become so cheap and so capable that not having one is like choosing to burn candles in an all-electric world. That future is coming. And it leaves us with one final, massive question. When the robots are finally doing all of our chores, what are we going to do with our time?